She stood at the doorway, her hands trembling, her voice breaking with emotion. "Please, you're the only one who can help him. Save my brother." The man before her froze. He was her ex-husband, a lawyer who had sworn never to get involved in her life again. Yet in her eyes he saw something he could not ignore: fear, desperation, and a spark of the love they once shared. Could he refuse her? Could he walk away knowing that her brother's life now hung by a thread? And before we dive deeper into this powerful story, make sure to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss the shocking twists that lie ahead. He remembered the promises he made to himself after their painful divorce. Never again would he get pulled into her world of chaos. Too many lies, too many wounds, too many scars that never truly healed. But now here she was, begging him to defend the very brother who had betrayed them both countless times. A man who had stolen, lied, and brought shame to their family. Every part of him wanted to say no, to close the door and let her fight this battle alone. Yet something deep inside whispered, what if he's innocent this time? What if walking away costs more than he can bear? This was not just about the law, it was about redemption, about second chances, and the case was brutal. Her brother Jay stood accused of killing a respected prosecutor in cold blood. The evidence against him was overwhelming: his fingerprints on the weapon, his boot prints at the crime scene, and witnesses who swore they saw him fleeing. To the world, Jay was already guilty. A lifelong troublemaker, a man with a record of thefts, fights, and broken promises. To most people, this was simply the final chapter in a wasted life. But she refused to believe it. And now, her ex-husband was forced to ask the question that burned in everyone's mind: was Jay truly a murderer, or just a pawn in a much darker game? The line between truth and deception was blurring fast, and every step closer to the case dragged them deeper into a storm of danger. Every conversation about Jay carried the heavy shadow of the past. He wasn't just her brother. He was the man who had stolen from their own home, pawned family treasures, and even betrayed the people who had once rescued him. The ex-husband remembered clearly: countless nights spent bailing Jay out, countless second chances wasted. Their marriage itself had crumbled under the pressure of Jay's recklessness. In many ways, Jay had destroyed not just his own life, but theirs too. And yet, here they were again, standing on the edge of another disaster. She was asking for mercy, for faith, for a defense that went beyond logic. He couldn't deny the bitterness in his heart, but neither could he deny the haunting thought: what if this time the past was hiding the truth? The courtroom was packed, the air heavy with judgment. Every eye turned as Jay Chambers was brought in, shackled, head bowed, wearing the mark of a condemned man. The prosecutor's voice thundered with confidence, painting Jay as nothing more than a lifelong criminal who had finally gone too far. The jury's faces hardened. To them, this was already an open and shut case. And then, he walked in. The ex-husband turned reluctant defender. Whispers spread like wildfire. Why would he defend a man like Jay? Was he blind to the evidence, or was there something more? The tension was unbearable. Every word spoken, every glance exchanged made it clear. This was not just a trial. It was a battlefield, and the odds were stacked against them. Piece by piece, the prosecution laid out their case: the murder weapon, the fingerprints, the boot prints in the dirt, all pointing to Jay as the killer. On the surface it seemed undeniable, but beneath the polished arguments and dramatic gestures, cracks began to show. Witnesses contradicted themselves, timelines didn't quite match, and key details were strangely convenient, as if the truth had been carefully rearranged. The ex-husband knew this wasn't just about law and order. This was about power, about silencing the weak and protecting the strong. Someone wanted Jay buried forever, and they were willing to twist the truth to make it happen. For the first time, he realized, defending Jay wasn't just about saving one man. It was about exposing the lies of a system built to destroy him. Behind the polished walls of the courtroom, a darker force pulled the strings. His name was Gates, a ruthless man whose empire thrived on fear, debt, and blood. Years ago, Jay had worked for him, running small jobs that always ended in chaos. Now, with the prosecutor dead, whispers spread that Gates was the true hand behind the crime. But instead of standing trial, he remained untouchable, hiding in plain sight while Jay took the fall. The ex-husband could feel his presence everywhere, in the silence of witnesses too afraid to speak, in the sudden lost evidence, in the way jurors' eyes darted nervously. It became clear this was never just about Jay. It was about a powerful criminal ensuring his own freedom, even if it meant sacrificing a broken man's life. Every step deeper into the case tore open old wounds. For her, Jay wasn't just a defendant. He was her brother, blood of her blood. No matter how many mistakes he made, she couldn't abandon him. For the ex-husband, though, Jay symbolized everything that had poisoned their marriage: betrayal, lies, and endless second chances that always ended in heartbreak. To defend him now meant reopening scars he had tried for years to heal. And yet, as they stood side by side in the courtroom, something became clear. This wasn't just about guilt or innocence anymore. It was about a family torn apart, forced to face the truth that love could be both a blessing and a curse. Even in the pursuit of justice, some battles feel less like trials and more like civil wars. Late at night, in the silence of his cell, Jay finally spoke. His words were broken, filled with fear more than defiance. He wasn't fighting just for himself. He was hiding something or someone. The lawyer saw it in his eyes. Jay knew more than he was saying. Every reckless choice, every refusal to cooperate with the court seemed designed to shield a secret. But who was he protecting? His sister? Her child? Or was it someone tied to Gates and his empire? The truth was buried deep, locked behind Jay's silence. And the more he kept it hidden, the clearer it became. This trial was only the surface of a much darker game. If the truth came out, it could destroy everything and everyone. The courtroom became more than a stage for justice. It turned into a battlefield where every word carried the weight of life or death. Threats lingered in the air. Jurors received anonymous warnings, witnesses went missing, and even the lawyer felt eyes watching him as he walked home at night. This wasn't just a case anymore, it was survival. For Jay, each testimony felt like a nail in his coffin. For his sister, every moment was torture, knowing that the truth could still set him free. And for the ex-husband, one choice echoed louder than all: defend his client to the very end, or risk losing not only the case, but everyone he had once loved. The trial was no longer about evidence. It was about power, fear, and who was willing to pay the ultimate price. The lines blurred as the case pressed forward. Was he still fighting for justice, or had this become a personal war? Every argument in court, every objection raised, carried not only the weight of the law, but also the bitterness of a man haunted by the past. For some, Jay deserved nothing but punishment. For others, this trial was a chance to finally break free from Gates's iron grip. But for the lawyer, it was both: a chance to uncover the truth and perhaps to reclaim a part of himself he thought was long gone. Yet in the quiet moments, one question burned: was he seeking justice or vengeance? And if the two collided, would he still recognize the man staring back at him in the mirror? The message came like a knife to the heart. Jay's nephew, the lawyer's own son by marriage, had vanished. Whispers spread that Gates' men had taken him, using the boy as leverage to guarantee Jay's silence. Panic ripped through the family. The mother's cries echoed with fear, while the lawyer felt the crushing weight of responsibility. This was no longer just about defending a man in court. It was about saving an innocent child from becoming collateral damage in a ruthless game. Gates had crossed the line, dragging the next generation into his war. And now the lawyer understood the brutal truth. If he failed, the price wouldn't just be a guilty verdict. It would be his son's life. As the trial pressed on, fragments of the puzzle began to fall into place. Hidden documents, hushed conversations, and a witness too terrified to speak the full truth painted a clearer picture. The prosecutor's murder had never been about Jay alone. It was a setup, a carefully crafted trap designed by Gates to eliminate his enemies and leave no trace of his own hand. Jay wasn't protecting himself. He was protecting his family, shielding them from a man who would stop at nothing to maintain control. When the truth surfaced in court, gasps filled the room. The case was no longer about whether Jay was guilty, but about how deep Gates' corruption truly ran. For the first time, the jury saw the possibility. Maybe the wrong man was sitting in the defendant's chair. The storm finally broke. Gates, cornered by the revelations, unleashed his fury. His men lurked outside the courthouse, shadows waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Inside, the tension boiled as the lawyer stood to deliver his closing argument. This was more than a case. It was a battle for truth, for freedom, for survival. Every word he spoke cut through fear, exposing Gates' lies and revealing the dark web of manipulation. The jurors leaned in, torn between the damning evidence and the courage of a man who dared to defy the untouchable. But choices have consequences, and as the lawyer risked everything to save his former family, he knew one truth could not be avoided. To bring down Gates, someone would have to pay the ultimate price. The courtroom fell silent as the jury returned. Every breath felt heavier than stone. The judge's voice broke the stillness, reading the words that would decide Jay's fate. For weeks, the evidence had screamed guilty. But now, after the shocking revelations, doubt had taken root. The jurors looked uneasy, their eyes shifting between Jay, his sister, and the man who had risked everything to defend him. And then, the words came, "Not guilty." Gasps erupted. Some cried in relief, others in anger. Justice had been spoken, but it was not the end. Because though Jay was free, the shadow of Gates still loomed, darker than ever, promising that this victory would come at a cost. It was not just a verdict, it was a warning. Freedom came, but it was scarred. Jay stepped out of the courthouse not as a hero, but as a man forever marked by the choices he had made. His sister clung to him, tears streaming, grateful that he was alive, yet terrified of the war that still lingered beyond those walls. The ex-husband walked away slowly, his heart heavy. He had saved a life, uncovered the truth, and defied a criminal empire, but at a cost that words could not measure. His marriage was gone, his peace shattered, and his future uncertain. Still, one thing burned brighter than all the darkness. He had chosen to stand for what was right, no matter the pain. And sometimes, that is the only victory a man can claim. So tell me, if you were in his place, would you risk everything for a family that once broke your heart? Before you go, remember to like, share, and subscribe, because stories like this deserve to be told, and the next twist of fate may be even more shocking than this one.